Shiva Prabhupada ki jai. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari
Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari
Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari
Jana Vallabha Girivaradari
Yashodanandana Brajjana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari
Natira Vanachari
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare.
Jaya Radha Radha Kanta Radha Radha Kanta Radhe
Jaya Radha Kanta Radhe
Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Nitai Gaur Hari Bol Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Sharanam Sankirtan ki jai Shri Shri Kratrashud Bhagavatam ki jai Gaura Premanande
Hari Hari Bol.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudirayet Nashta Prayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Uttamaśloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nandagopakumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 3, text number 21. Imam lokam amam chaiva.
Imam lokam amam chaiva.
Ramayan sutaram yadu.
Ramayan sutaram yudun.
Reve Krishna daya datta.
Preme Krishna daya sutata.
Shanastri shana sauhradaha.
Shana Sri Shana Sohrida.
Imam lokam amam chaiva.
Imam lokam amam chaiva.
Ramayan sutaram yadu.
Ramayan sutaram yadun.
Reme shanadaya datta.
Preme Shanadaya tata.
Kshanastri shana sauhrada.
Shana Sri Shana Sohrida.
Imam lokam amam chaiva.
Imam lokam amam chaiva.
Ramayan sutaram yaduna.
Ramayan sutaram yadun.
Reme shanadaya datta.
Preme Shanadaya tata.
Shanastri shana sauhradaha.
Shana Sri Shana Sohrida.
Devotees.
Imam lokam amam chaiva.
Lokam amam chaiva.
Ramayan sutaram yudam.
Sutaram yadu.
Preme Shanadaya tata. Shana Sri Shana Sohrida.
Shanastri shana sauhradaha.
Imam lokam amam chaiva. Ramayan sutaram yudam. Preme Shanadaya tata. Shana Sri Shana Sohrida.
Translation by Srila Prabhupada. The Lord enjoyed his pastimes both in this world and in other worlds, higher planets. Specifically in the association of the Yadu dynasty, at leisure hours offered by night, he enjoyed friendship of conjugal love with women. Please repeat. The Lord enjoyed his pastimes
The Lord enjoyed his pastimes
both in this world
both in this world
and in the other worlds,
and in the other world.
within brackets, higher planets.
What is it?
Higher planets.
With the higher planets.
Specifically in the association of Yadu dynasty,
Especially in association with the other dynasty.
at leisure hours
A leisure house
offered by the night,
offered by the night.
he enjoyed the friendship
He enjoyed the friendship
of conjugal love
of conjugal love
with women.
with women.
Purport by Srila Prabhupada.
Hare
The Lord enjoyed in this world with his pure devotees. Although he is the personality of Godhead and is transcendental to all the material attachments, he nevertheless exhibited much attachment for his pure devotees on the earth, as well as for the demigods who engaged in service in the heavenly planets. As powerful delegated directors in the management of the material activities, he displays special attachment for his family members, the Yadus, as well as his 16,000 wives, who had the opportunity to meet him in the leisure hours of night. Sorry. All these attachments of the Lord are manifestation of his eternal potency, of which the external potency is only a shadow of representation. In the Skanda Purana, Prabhasa Khanda, in the topics between Lord Shiva and Gauri, there is a confirmation of his eternal potential manifestations. There is mention of the Lord's meeting with the 16,000 cowherd dancers, although he is the Hamsa, transcendental super soul, and the maintainer of all living entities. The 16,000 cowherd dancers are a display of 16 varieties of eternal potencies. This will be more elaborately explained in the 10th canto. It is said there that Lord Krishna is just like the moon. The eternal potential dancers are like the stars around the moon. Hari Om Tat Sat. Chaitanya Manovisham Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Katamahyam Nidati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Tapadakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahaganarugnatanitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalitam Shri Vishakhanvitanscha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Yat Kripa Tamaham Vande Shri Gurum Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Vishwaram Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare Hari Om Tat Sat. So here we are saying from third chapter, continuing on the remembrance of Lord Krishna by Uddhava, and he's narrating this to Vidura. So Uddhava has spoken about Lord's pastimes in Vrindavan. Now he is slowly moving into his pastimes in the Mathura and Dwarka. So here you see, when he's remembering about Lord's special relationship with all the different devotees. So he also recounts the relationship with his consorts. So as we all know, so Krishna has multifarious relationships with his devotees, which is broadly classified into 5 different types. So Shantaras, there is Dasya, there is Sakhya, there is Vatsalya, and then there is Madhurya. So within that there are different shades. So if you read it on devotion, it talks about 64 different shades. And there are different combinations of that. So especially the Madhurya Rasa, the Lord exhibits his relationship with his devotees in 2 different ways. Namely, one within the marriage and another without the marriage. So it's the relationship with his with gopis, which is a celebrated relationship, which is mentioned to be the most special and the advanced of all devotees, gopis. So that relationship is called Parakiya. So Parakiya Rasa means that which is outside the binding of marriage. Whereas the relationship with his queens in Dwarka and queens in Mathura, so they are called as Swakiya, or that which is within the marriage. So these 2 relationships are said to be the Madhurya Rasa. As earlier, just like in the Bhagavad Gita also we see, so we have Arjuna. So he is saying to Krishna, 11th chapter, "Oh my dear Lord, so I had slept with you the same bed, I had eaten with you the same plate, and I had dined with you, and I had spoken very lightly of you many times, spoken to you as Yadava, as a friend, and different things. Please forgive me for all that." So Arjuna is saying. Krishna never took any offense to all of that, because he is a Bhavagrahi Janardana. He takes the consciousness of the devotee. He doesn't take the external dealings of the devotee, especially his pure devotees. And especially he has Arjuna as a very dear friend of him, so he doesn't take any offense on that. Same with his queens also. So his queens, some of them are his pure devotees or his eternal associates. His direct expansions, Chit Shakti, as we see in the purport. Actually, it is coming from the purport from Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. It says that Maya Shakti Vilasa Eva Tasya Anachakti Chit Shakti Vilase Tva Shaktir Vetayaha Snigdati. Actions of Maya Shakti here is attached to the actions of Chit Shakti. So So the Lord's concerns, at least the primary concerns, 8 of them, are his Chit Shakti, or expansions of his potencies. So we know Lakshmi, who has come as Rukmini Devi. So she is an expansion of goddess of fortune, or she is the goddess of fortune herself. And then we have Satyabhama, who is said to be the Mother Earth. And then like that, all the 8 principal queens of Dwarka, they are very expansions from the spiritual world. But the other expansions, other queens of Dwarka, 16,000 in numbers, so they are all the demigods or the residents of the heavenly planets who have incarnated into Krishna's pastimes. They had a lot of desire to associate with Krishna, so Krishna accommodates them. So he marries all of them, and 16,108 different princesses who are captured by Narakasura, we saw last week. And he marries all of them out of his causeless mercy. And they all, some of them are actually the residents of heaven. They come down to the earthly pastimes in order to associate with Krishna. So Krishna has different devotees, or different kinds of different relationships. Some of them are his wives. So one important thing to remember is that the next sloka confirms that, clarifies that. Let me read the next sloka also. It's a continuation of the sloka. Tasya imam ramanasya samvatsara ganan bahun grihamedasya yogashu viraga samajayatha. The Lord was thus engaged in household life for many, many years, but his detachment from ephemeral sex was fully manifested. So purport Srila Prabhupada writes, even though the Lord is never attached to any kind of material sex life, as the universal teacher, he remained a householder for many, many years, just to teach others how one should live in the householder life. This is very important. This is also confirmed by Vishnu Chakravarti also. The next verse he says that Krishna showed complete indifference to the path of karma, typified by the Rajoguna performing household activities. So the queens of Dwarka, so they all thought that Krishna is always with them. So when Narada Muni visits Krishna in Dwarka, actually this happens by Narada's discussion with Brahma. So Lord Brahma, he asked Narada to go and visit Krishna, because Narada has some understanding of, some doubt about who is Naishtika Brahmachari, who is a real celibate person. So he thinks that he is a very celibate person, and he is very proud of it. So he asks him to go, he asks Brahma, who is the best of all celibates? So Lord Brahma says it is Krishna. Narada is very surprised. How can Krishna be a celibate person? So he has married 16,108 queens. And so how do you say he's a celibate person? So then for that, Brahma says, Narada, go and visit Dwarka. So we'll come to know. So, so Narada comes down to Dwarka, then he sees Lord Krishna's activities. 16,108 different houses. So he has expanded separately. And then he has led a family householder life there. And he has a family, he does his puja to his deity, his own deity. And he does the different duties of a householder. Giving donation to brahmanas, and giving charity, and also executing the duties as according to Varnashrama, as a king sometimes, as a Vaishya sometimes. So he does all different duties perfectly. And he also has his own sons. So Harivamsha also we see, from every queen he had 10 sons. And we also see in Mahabharata also the same information. So he was a perfect householder in all respects. So, being householder doesn't mean that one engages in unrestricted behavior. So he is bound by rules and regulation of Shastras. So he follows the rules and regulation of Shastras. And he does the duties properly. And he also is regulated in his sensual activities. So it is neither he completely abstains from sensual activities, from sexual engagement, nor he completely is engaged without control. So he exhibits proper balance. So he, just like Prabhupada says in many places, so a grahastha doesn't mean he's a grahamedi. So grahamedi is unrestricted in his behavior, whereas grahastha means he's in a spiritual ashram. So he engages in sexual activities only for procreation. So Prabhupada mentions again and again. So Lord was also a very good example of that. So he had 10 sons from each of his queens. So he was not an careless or he was neither a kind of he has to set a proper example for others to follow. As he says in Bhagavad Gita, yat yat acharati shreshtas taddat eva tarojana. Which also means that a grahastha should also have children. It is said in the Vedas, not in the Vedas, the Puranas, that putrahinam griham shunyam. So a grahastha who does not have children, his house is incomplete. So it is, and also putu trayate iti putraha. So a son is one who is to be brought up very nicely so that he offers proper oblations to the forefathers and he delivers them from hellish regions of the planets, hellish planets. So all these things points to a grahastha's responsibility to have proper children, engage in proper sexual life for, as per the Shastras, to have children. So Lord Krishna did that very perfectly. He very expertly managed everything as a Supreme Lord. So when Narada saw that, he was extremely amazed. Prabhupada says, whoever is engaging in sexual life, the married life, just for the procreation, for getting a child, so he is a brahmachari. So he is also brahmachari, grihastha brahmachari. So that is very clearly described in the Prabhupada purports. So that is why Krishna is a brahmachari. So even though he was a householder, but he is still a brahmachari. And this is again proved in the another episode in the Mahabharata also. So the Mahabharata, when Ashwatthama sends the Brahmastra to kill who?
Well,
Pariksha. Yes.
well, but initially, in one, I hate to get into this, but maybe I should just leave it at that. He sent it to, but I read in the Mahabharata by Don, the
Krishna.
devotee that's, it's on the database. And he said that after he had killed the 5 sons, he beheaded them. Who was that?
Ashwatthama.
Ashwatthama. Who was the sons? The 5 sons of
The sons of Pandavas.
the 5 sons of Pandavas. Who was the mother?
Mother was Draupadi.
Draupadi. So, of course, and actually Dronacharya, Duryodhana was actually quite upset that he did that, because now you've ruined our line. I didn't, someone in our family line, and then so, but also when they hear about this, the whole family. I'm not trying to take over your class, but I was thinking, that they because sometimes people there's some controversy about it, but he had been, so Ashwatthama had been taught by his father Dronacharya how to release a brahmastra, but he didn't know how to retract it. He could divert it, but he couldn't retract it. So after he beheaded the 5 sons, then Krishna, Bhima, Arjuna, they're all out. And as a matter of fact, someone makes a pledge that you will stand to Draupadi, you will stand on his head today in the river. And so he's taking shelter at an ashram, I think with Vyasadeva or somebody like that. And as soon as he sees them coming, he releases the Brahmastra, and then either Vyasa or some other sage says, no, you can't do this. Retract it. and he couldn't, so he redirected it to Parikit. Now some people say that actually he had two Brahmasters, but according to what I read in this version of Mahabharata, he had one, and it was redirected.
Yes, so in Bhagavatam it says the first canto clearly says that first time it was released towards the Pandavas.
Yeah.
And Arjuna, he took not just his Brahmastra, but he also took the Ashwatthama's Brahmastra, interacted both of them. So it was cancelled, and he was captured, and he was brought to Draupadi. And whether should he be beheaded or not, there was a discussion. And then Krishna said, I want both of them to be satisfied. Draupadi also to be satisfied, Bhima also to be satisfied. Bhima wanted him to be killed, Draupadi wanted him to be pardoned. So then, and then finally the decision was that Arjuna would take the jewel on the head of the Ashwatthama, because that is his
Source of
pride.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he takes the jewel away, and then he cuts his hair, and then makes him, they pardon him and leave him. So then he's still having that vengeance against the Pandavas.
Oh,
So this time he sends the Brahmastra towards the Uttara's womb,
Oh.
so directly towards them. So then that's when Pandavas are not able to do anything, because if it is against them, he can cancel the Brahmastra with this Brahmastra and retract it. But it is directed towards somebody else. So they all come towards Krishna. And the Mahabharata it says, so this happens in Bhagavatam. So in the Mahabharata, maybe there's only one Brahmastra being talked about. So the Mahabharata it also is mentioned that so the Brahmastra goes and attacks Parikshit, who is in the womb of his mother. Then he is aborted, then he comes out dead. Then everybody is there, they are all wailing and they are crying for the child. So that time Krishna says that whoever is a Naishtik Brahmachari here, then if they would lift this child, he will come back full of life. And nobody is coming forward, even the rishis, they are not coming forward for that. So Krishna says, if I was an Naishtik Brahmachari, then he would come back to life. So he blesses the child and then he comes back to life. So that is another episode from Mahabharata.
Oh,
So this is also
I
there.
hadn't read that.
Yeah.
There's so many, because I heard, what I read was is that once that jewel was taken from him, he had no more abilities, no more mystic abilities to, even if he chanted the mantras correctly, he couldn't do anything. He was virtually, dead. And then he was cast out to wander for so many years as a leper.
Yeah, true. But he did kind of attack second Brahmastra also.
He really did not get it, did he? They gave him forgiveness, and then he still goes. That is really.
Yeah, that's why he is cursed to not die. So Krishna curses him that you will never die, and you will have all this bodily, you will have not leprosy but some other bodily ailment for thousands and thousands of years. So Ashwatthama is cursed to be alive, and he's
Is
still
that when
alive.
Lord Chaitanya will give him mercy?
And according to the Madhva tradition, so he will become the next Vyasa, the next millennium.
Ashwatthama?
Yes, according to Madhva tradition. So he will be there, and then he will become the next Vyasa,
Wow.
next Dwapara. So till the time he will be alive. So Vyasa is not really necessarily always Krishna's incarnation. So this particular millennium, it happens to be Krishna's incarnation because nobody else was qualified. But otherwise there is some other empowered soul who is a Shaktyavesh avatar, who comes and divides the Vedas into 4 or 5. So that happens to be the next millennium. It will be, it is from some Purana, so they have some pramana for that. I do not know what is a pramana, but it is, so they do mention that he will be the next Vyasa. So he was cursed to remain alive, he will never die, and he will be constantly, he will be because he has this bodily problems and he loses all his potency, so he's not happy. But he will be pardoned and he will become the Vyasa in the next millennium. So that is the story how it goes.
So, but then, I hope I didn't take you too far astray of your train of thought, but, is the pastime, unique to this Dwapara Yuga, or, the whole, Krishna and Pandavas, is there a same pastime, but not necessarily the original personality of Godhead, like a Narayan form, or is there some other pastimes?
Could be the same or different. There's always Kalpa Veda. So every Kalpa there is a change.
Right.
So what will be the next Kalpa, we don't know.
It's, I think with
But the roles do change. The roles change.
The roles, but I was told that there's always the Lord Chaitanya, but not like like this particular one's a combination of Radharani and Krishna. There's another like Narayan form or Vishnu form, and there's the Harinam, but there's certain aspects of it that are unique to this particular one.
True. I also heard that. So that is one Gauranga who is the Krishna himself. And in other millenniums also, somebody comes and starts the Dharma of chanting Harinam.
Right.
And it is not really the original Krishna. I've heard something like that from maybe Jagtak Maharaj.
Yeah. I heard it from more than one source, but I think it was Jagtak Maharaj was probably the one I trusted.
Yeah. So back to the topic here.
Sorry.
Yeah, no problem. So Krishna is a Naishtika Brahmachari even though he is a householder. And so he does not get affected. So the queens of the Dwarka, so they all thought Krishna is all for themselves. And Krishna is henpecked and he's catering to them all the time. But Krishna was never attached to anybody. So just like in Arjuna also, the Bhagavad Gita. So Arjuna thought, okay, Krishna is always with him. So he's dining with him, he's talking with him, he's sleeping on the same bed sometimes. And he thought he was a close friend, but he was never to be. He was always the Supreme Lord. And he accepts the sentiments of his devotees. So the same thing, like in this case, he accepts the sentiments of his queens also. But he's never affected, or he's never attached to anything. He's always a supreme person and he'll never be bewildered by Maya. So he's always a supreme personality of God. He's a master of Maya. Maya Desha Prakriti Suyate Sacharacha. So Maya Adhyakshena Prakriti. So he's the Adhyaksha. Adhyaksha means he's the controller. He never becomes tinged by Maya. So that is Supreme Personality of Godhead. So one should never be confused about it. That's why it is said that anybody who knows his activities, his birth, is transcendental, he will never take birth again. So because it is always all perfect. Nobody can find a mistake in it. Same with Krishna here. So people talk so many different things. Especially if you go to India, so there are Christian missionaries who vilify Krishna. Oh, Krishna is such and such. He did so many things. He danced with others' wives. He married so many queens. And he is always amorous. And his character is very, very questionable. How can he become the Supreme Lord? So because they know Bhagavad Gita is highly regarded and Krishna spoke Bhagavad Gita, so the easy way is to vilify the person who spoke Bhagavad Gita. So Hindus won't accept Bhagavad Gita. That way they can push their agenda, right? So it's a very, they always do that. And gullible Hindus also, they don't know anything. So they also take it literally. And these days, a lot of different serials comes in the TVs, and they all make different shades of the things. They don't really present the real original thing. As time goes by, Kali Yuga doesn't spare anyone, doesn't spare Krishna also. So they present so many different changed versions and different things, so which is not properly authorized. And so all those things makes everybody is more confused. They don't get the real information. The real information is always obscure. So that is why it's important to present Krishna conscious philosophy as presented by Prabhupada very strongly and very perfectly, and keep that purity by repeating the words of great Acharya. So when we do that, then potency is maintained and we convey the same information. It might seem outdated for some people. Oh, they are saying the same things. But we continue to present the purity and continue our purity, our character will change them. So by being an instrument in the hands of the Lord, the Supreme Lord, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his great devotees, so definitely it is possible. So achar and prachar, we should have good achar, we should have good prachar. It's very difficult. We should keep trying. Always look for making improvements. It's never going to be perfect, but we should always try to make improvements. So that's very important. So next verse also talks about the same lines. So and it clearly clarifies that his detachment was fully manifested. So he was never attached. Prabhupada clarifies again and again. He remained a householder for many, many years just to teach others how one should live in householder life. Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains the word samjayata means fully exhibited in all his activities while present on earth. The Lord exhibited detachment. This is fully displayed when he wanted to teach by example that one should not remain attached to household life for all the days of one's life. So two extremes are there. So one is becoming grihamedi and then completely disregarding rules and regulation. Another is a householder is not doing his duties properly or trying to be as a renunciate. That's also an extreme. Then why you become married at all? So why should you get married? So if you don't want to beget children, if you don't want to do the duties of household life, earn money and then provide for society, be charitable, so why you get married at all? So just be a brahmachari. So that is also another extreme. So Prabhupada condemns that kind of extreme. So householder means you should definitely have children and you should be responsible and you should be charitable. So it's very important. So stop here for any questions, any comments. Hare Krishna.
You were talking about aspartame just now, I just walked in. I was just telling Auntie Sundari 2 days ago, I'm reading Queen Kunti's book by Srila Prabhupada. And it's, to me, it's still, I can't comprehend this. That when he killed all Kunti's grandchildren, right?
Draupadi.
Yeah, all
Grandchildren.
all the
Oh,
grandchildren.
Kunti's grandchildren.
Yes, he killed all of them, and then she says to Arjuna and Krishna, all of them, spare him. You know, him and Draupadi. They're like, I would not do that, sorry, but she did. Despite of doing that, this character turned around and wanted to kill Uttara. After being forgiven by these people. Generally, you kill all your grandchildren, well, they would be like, what? They say, forgive him, let him go, don't. They would have killed him right there, you know? But she said, no, don't do that. But to turn around and send that Brahmastra to kill to get the womb of Uttara, what is that?
It's demonic.
You know,
It's
how demoniac this person can be. You know, it's hard to comprehend. When I read about the characters like this, I get into that picture. If I'm a grandma, kill all my grandkids, you know, you'll see fire coming out of me everywhere. I mean, it's true, you know, to be forgiving like that. Kunti was, Draupadi, and then you turn around and do it again. You know, that's why he's in that kind of curse, you know.
Yeah.
Forever cannot be forgiven, probably, in this
Yeah.
life, you know,
Yeah.
because that's hideous. It's not a simple, small thing. Not for Krishna. That last little baby will be also gone,
Yeah.
you know. Anyhow.
Yeah, one should be careful about not being too lenient. So
Yeah.
even in the case of Draupadi, I would definitely say, so he has committed so many heinous
So
crimes.
many, yeah. But it's all destiny.
And he's always been on the other side, the Kaurava side. So he destined to be killed in the war, Mahabharata war. Somehow he escaped with his life. And then he's doing, after doing this act, definitely he deserved to be killed.
Yes.
I also totally agree with that point.
If I were there, I would
And that will
definitely
save him
get
from
it.
his karma,
Yeah.
killing people who are not even properly equipped with weapons.
Mm-hmm.
It is not at all a proper code of warfare.
Moral, yeah. Morally
So
that's wrong.
people,
also.
they were
Ethically,
sleeping.
morally, all that is wrong, right?
On the top, they were sleeping also.
Yes, they were innocent, you know.
Yeah, actually, this misplaced compassion, that they want to stop the death penalty. And one time I got a phone call when I was in Atlanta from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. They asked us, there was some issue going on about death penalty. They asked what we think of it. I said, well, we think that, that the way to atone is to be, if you're actually proven to be guilty, the best thing for that person is to be executed by a God-conscious government. But then I said, but now we see that it's hard to find real justice. The justice is based on how much money someone has. Guilty people with money can find some trick to get out. And innocent people, because of the color of their skin or because of their poverty, they'll be, made the scapegoat. So it's a very difficult thing. But I think Kunti's, I can't remember the exact argument she made, but she made very strong arguments about, what we do to him. It's not, we have to, like how much pain his mother will experience. So what Krishna does is, he gives the idea that what he did to him was death. Like, he says in the Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna, one who's been honored, dishonor is worse than death.
Yeah.
And they took away the stone with all his mystic powers, they cut off his hair, he gets leprosy, he's condemned to live this ignominious life forever. For a very long time. So that is a kind of death, but he doesn't really get to be free of the sin that he committed. But the real point is that so you let him go, and then he just wants to do it again.
Yeah, Krishna obviously knew that, so he knew he's going to act rashly because he knew he's going to attack Parikshit.
Right.
But he wanted to give mercy to Parikshit also. So he always has multiple
Yeah, and actually
reasons to do.
it sets
let
up the
things
whole desire for Parikshit. He's always looking for that person he saw at birth. So that sets up the whole. I've been meditating on this more and more because I get so frustrated with what's happening in the society right now. And then you see that there is a plan. And even in our own lives, there are times when you think, why is this? And then 5 years later you realize, oh, I understand. They take that long. And so, actually Grandfather Bhishma says that. He says you cannot, not even Lord Brahma can understand Krishna's plan. You just have to have faith.
Right.
He tells that to Yudhishthira on the deathbed. No. So,
Sure. Thank you, bro. Yes, Mata.
What I was thinking when you're talking about the Brahmastra being was there's a picture, right, in the Bhagavatam where it
Yes.
shows the super soul protecting the embryo
yeah.
like that. So I just want to make sure that, it was a genius act. So you can see how the Lord's always protecting his dear most devotees. So later on in his life, you could have this wonderful narration between Sukadeva,
True. The whole Bhagavatam was spoken later. Parikshit.
Yeah.
He was the instrument in that. Sure. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Ram.
Natarashil Bhagavatam ki jai.
Hare